Alright guys, this is Derek from AAD. I'm going to go ahead and go over my Coyote swapped Foxbody and what it took to get it to where it's at. And yeah, so long story short, I have another car that's a heads cam intake, blower car, push rod, super fun coffee car, Trimic Trans, and it's a blast. But rear main still leaks, smells like gas. I just wanted something efficient, something that I could go to the track, run 11s, maybe even 10s, drive it home, put a blower on it later, and literally just drive it, have ice cold AC, killer stereo, which the stereo in this thing's out of this world. So what I did is during COVID, I bought the motor and the trans. At that time for me was, I think I paid like $8,000, which was a really good deal considering they're going for now. And this is a Gen 3 10R80 car. And I started doing tons of research because there's a lot of cool videos on YouTube about Coyote swaps, and there's a ton of information out there that if you just look and search, you kind of get the gist of what to do, but you don't get an exact answer of exactly what to do. So I basically did some research. I'm like, all right, I'll figure this thing out. I made some friends on Instagram and other places that kind of gave me some hints on what to do. And I bought the motor trans, and then I went, okay, I need a K-member. You have to have a K-member that fits with those headers. So if you buy a Gen 1, Gen 2, or Gen 3, to get it in the car, the K-member has to fit the headers. If they don't fit, then good luck. So I bought a Cook's headers and a Maximum Motorsports K-member. Sports, you guys, literally has amazing customer service. I am blown away. Everything I've ever sent them or asked them, every time I put an order in, even if they were backlogged, they always communicated with me. They always answered the phone, helped me with anything I needed. Super, super awesome customer service, and I'll buy shit from them till the day I die. Cook's, on the other hand, Cook's long tubes, man, their customer service is complete shit. Yeah, so you got your headers, you got your exhaust. You know, I went with their X-Pipe 2, and I don't know what I'm going to do with catback yet, but I basically think if I was to do it over again, I would have gone with Maximum Motorsports K-member and maybe Ultimate headers if they fit, but you're going to have to check Foxcast. I believe has a really good video on what headers fit with what K-member. You're going to need suspension because with the Maximum Motorsports K-member, you got to buy a coilover kit because you're going to lose the spring perch, which is fine. You just know that that's something you're going to have to do. You're going to want to do brakes. Right now I have my stock brakes on the car for mock-up, but you're going to need brakes. You're going to need a bump steer. If you know, we'll get into mounting the computer and air conditioning and all that other stuff, but let's just start there. So you need suspension, bump steer kit, coilover kit from Maximum Motorsports. You're going to need motor mounts. If you don't have motor mounts for a 4.6 Mustang, and so I went with some polyurethane 4.6 motor mounts. So you got the K-member, A-arms, you got the coilover kit, you got the exhaust, you got the motor, and at this point, what's next? Well, you're going to need some way to control the Coyote, so you're going to need a control pack, or you can go with like a Holley setup, but they don't work with Gen 3s, I'm pretty sure, so I went with a Gen 3 10R80 control pack from Ford. Took about a year to get because it was during COVID, but I ended up getting it. So you get that control pack, and man, is it easy to install. Consuming was shaving the engine bay. For me, I have a lift, scissor lift. Putting the engine in was simple. A lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll just jack the front of the core support up and then slide it under, and then you just want to buy these. They have a miniature set of these dollies, and you put the motor and the trans on, and you just slide it right underneath and then drop the car. I need a radiator, obviously, electric fans, so I went with Contour fan. You know, they make other fans that you can go with. You can go with like newer style fans, SN95, but most of the time, then you're going to have to figure out degas bottles and all this other stuff. LMR sells a great kit. It literally is plug and play. Well, it's not plug and play. The mounting of it is plug and play. The wiring of it, you do have to know how to wire up relays, but there's instructions on everything here. So if you buy all this stuff, you're going to get instructions, all of it. So you got your electric fan, you got your radiator. The control pack hoses will fit, but this top one, you're going to need a grommet. You're going to need this, you can see it right here on this grommet, and this makes it so this hose slips right on and is perfectly fit. The bottom hose actually fits. You're going to need to plug a bunch of stuff on the intake, and you're going to need to tap for coolant. and then obviously make lines for the heater core, and then decide if you're going to run AC. But let's get back to what parts you need. So next you got fans, radiator. You're going to need to know what you're going to do for power steering. So you can either do two things. One, Power by the Hour sells a kit that takes your alternator that's down at the bottom here and puts it backwards here with a clutchless pulley and makes it so you can put your power steering pump where the alternator goes. I personally didn't want to do that right off the bat just because it would have been another $1,000 or $1,200 for me. Instead, I decided to go with a Volvo power steering kit, and they're electric. So all these kits do is you mount them where you want them, where I've mounted it here. There's a guy on Facebook that sells these mounts, and literally it just bolts right in. You use the rubber grommets that come with it, or you can mount it anywhere else. A lot of guys do it, and it literally is so easy to install. It's power, ground, keyed on, and then on these two CAN bus wires here, you have a controller, which I just ordered, that lets you plug these in, and you can turn the pump up. By default, the power steering pump on this thing is only at 50%. So if you just plug it in, a lot of guys have problems with these because it's only at 50% and it's not going to work for drifting or hardcore racing or anything that you do with your car. So you have to turn the CAN bus up so it's at 100%, and these work great. A lot of guys run them just at 50% and like them. You can see the next thing is you're going to need lines for all this stuff. So LMR sells a line kit that basically makes it so all this stuff works. And you can run it either inside the bay, or you can do what I did and run it through the outside. And it gives you all the bolts you need, hardware, lines, everything you're going to need, a T, so you can get power steering and hydro boost together, because the power steering and the hydro boost are going to be one. So power steering was the next thing we talked about. Then air conditioning is the next thing. So I kept my air conditioning where it was. You're going to need a 4.6. They actually sell 3 different pumps for these, but I went with the 4.6 liter pump, and I went with the Fathead Garage Kit. It basically hides all your air conditioning lines. They basically go into the car, come through, and then they're all hidden right here. Even if you don't go with his kit, I would highly recommend buying his wiring kit so you can wire it up and make it work. So you got air conditioning, you got power steering now, you got your cooling fans, you got your motor, you got your suspension so far, you got your K-member, exhaust, X-pipe, long tubes, whatever you need, you got it so far. Now, what's next? Well, you got to decide, are you going to hide your wiring, and where are you going to run power on your car? A lot of guys will only run one thing of 0 gauge or 2 gauge or 4 gauge down the car, and they won't, and basically that one 0 gauge that comes in, then they tee off everything from there. I did it a little bit different. I ran 0 gauge down this side of the car to this distribution. The other thing is you got to make sure it can hold the voltage. So the alternator puts out 170 amps on a Gen 3. This is for 250 amps, so it should hold. So I have my 0 gauge that comes in the car, comes in through here, through the old cruise control grommet, comes right into here, and then I have a 4 gauge that comes out of here to the alternator, and then from a 4 gauge from the alternator to the starter. And then you're going to want to hide all your factory wiring. So I have all my factory stuff. I marked it all, knew what it was. I grounded the grounds to where the grounds went, and I put positives on here. You do not need a starter solenoid anymore. This wire here, that is a, I believe it's, what is it, red with gray, is for the original starter solenoid. The solenoid is now on the starter. Power coming in this side that goes to this distribution block, which goes to all the power for the car, for the motor itself, or for the car itself and the motor. So power comes in, 0 gauge, goes to this alternator, which then jumps over to the starter to start the car. And on the other side, I came over here and I have a 4 gauge wire. I drilled a hole right here a bit, then I measured the size of the control pack plugs, which look like these. And it was like 2 inches, 2.75 I believe, and then I ordered a grommet online that fit the exact size I used, and I just measured the diameter of the hoses that'll go in there, or the wiring that goes in there, and it works great. And then when I'm all said and done, a 4 gauge wire that goes to the control pack, because the control pack's going to need to see power, ground, and then you're going to need fuel. So it's going to have a green wire that comes off of it that goes to your fuel pump, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But it's got to see its own power and its own ground here, which I think I can show you guys. I think I have it out kind of. So I have it coming into the engine bay or into the firewall, and it's mounted right there where the stock computer goes. So if I ever need to access any of this stuff, it's easy. But this is my 4-gauge wire that's coming in, and the ground just goes down my body and goes all the way to the trunk. And they're going to give you a fuse that comes with the control pack as well, which is right here. So I have power going down this side. I have a huge stereo in this car, so I had power and grounds all over the place anyways. But for the car, this is the 0 gauge I used. Make sure and use a really good quality 0 gauge, oxygen free, you know, heavy strand 0 gauge. I have 2 0 gauge grounds that go through here. This is the wire I used. It's Stinger 0 gauge wire. But you're going to run those 2 0 gauge wires to the frame, and that's my ground. Now I use this stuff called Tech Flex, and you buy it in different sizes. You can get it on Amazon. It's basically just sheathing that goes over the wiring, and then you can buy this other stuff too that comes apart down the middle, so you can wrap it. And Ford wraps all this stuff in Tech Flex when you get the motor, so I just kept running it because it looks good and it hides everything. On this side of the wiring, actually, I forgot to tell you guys, you do have to extend your wiring for your light on your hood and for your power, or for your motor, for your wiper. Fuel. So now you got everything so far hooked up. Now you need fuel. You're going to want to replace your air conditioning stuff. If you do, I replaced all that crap, and I ran a trans cooler too. But fuel, I ran a quantum fuel kit. We're up to a 525 fuel pump. 8 feed, 6 return. It's good for a shit ton of power if you ever want to go with a blower, at least 650, 700. I think it's good. I think it's like 650 wheel on E85 and then, or 550 wheel on E85, something around there, and then it's like 800 wheel on gas. So it's plenty enough power. With a Gen 3 with a 10R80, this car should run high 10s, low 11s just stock. So I think it'll be fine. But fuel, I ran down this side here, and I came in here. Ran down this side here, ran all the way down the car, and came up. I put the fuel filter underneath the car where the old fuel filter went. Hoses, so you can plug it in, and it comes with a new plug, so you don't have to use the stock one anymore, which my stock one has seen better days, not gonna lie. It comes with a gasket. It comes with everything you need to make this. On the control pack side, you're gonna have this plug right here, and this plug is called, I don't even know, but it's the only plug that comes off the control pack that you need to hook up. All these wires are for the 10R80. If you're a stick car, you're not going to have any of this stuff. And there's 3 wires that need to be hooked up. There's a green wire and a light blue. The green wire goes to red with a green stripe, and the blue wire goes with pink, white with a pink stripe on a 90 GT. And all this stuff I extended so I can hide it. It's going to have its own OBD2 sensor. This is the green wire that goes to your fuel, your new fuel system. So you're going to run this green wire from the control pack down your car to here. So I have a brand new relay with a breaker. Fuel comes in, and all that green wire goes to is your trigger wire. So it needs to see, when you kick the key on, it wants to see that trigger power to the relay, and it's going to have its own power and ground. And once it's triggered, it's going to come into here. This is the new line they give you. And then that goes and plugs into the fuel pump. So you're basically just giving it a brand new set of line for, you know, your fuel. 3, you don't actually have to wire up all kinds of shit. All you have to wire up, RPM, everything, it goes right into the OBD2 connector with the Dakota Digital box. They have a Y splitter, so you can use a Y splitter, so you can do whatever you need to do if you wanted to run 2 OBD2s. And you have power, and you're good to go. I think the motor takes 9.5 quarts. I have a 10R80 filter, and I think the trans takes 13. So I still got to put fluids in it. Hook up the Dakota Digital, put my fuel tank back in, and then start it. And then to get it to start, I just have to put the key in it. Caster camber plates you're going to need. Coilover kit. A-arms. Oh, you're going to need the Hydro Boost lines. I didn't go over that with you. Hydro Boost line adapters. Steering shaft. I forgot about the steering shaft. You need that. For the Hydro Boost adapter kit, you're going to need to buy this kit from Maximum Motorsports to get the Hydro Boost to work. What else? You're going to need spacers for the steering rack, because the Gen 3 oil pan will hit it, so you have to space it out. That's this kit right here. Your Dakota Digital wiring stuff, your gauge cluster, and yeah, it's a lot of shit, I know. But I'm telling you guys, if you're on the fence about doing this, if you have the money, it's doable. So I'll come back with another video later, guys.